All right. Good morning, everybody. Come on through. Great. Terrific. All good? Okay. Great. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. And I want to just mention a few people who are also joining us here today. We have Senator Keenan, Ann Klee, David Barish, Jennifer Edwards, and everyone from the GE Foundation. Jeremy Holman and the entire team from Health Resources in Action. Our advisory committee, Paul Krasinski from Epicenter Experience, who helped develop this idea and has been a partner since day one. Gary Goldberg and all of our partners at Fable Vision Studios right here in Boston. Thank you for your vision and creativity and hard work in making this app a reality. Grant recipients who are here from school districts across the state, including Springfield, West Bridgewater, Methuen, and Worcester. And our panelists, Chris Herron from the Herron Project, Superintendent Jordana Harper from the Greenfield Public Schools, and Carly Caminetti, Project Manager for Project Here. So across the state right now, students, teachers, staff, everybody is returning to school. And it's a reminder for all of us that nothing is more important than ensuring that our young people can grow up safe and healthy. That's what today is all about. That's what Project Here is all about, because for the second year in a row, the team here today is providing tools and resources to schools and teachers to help educate young people and empower them to make healthy decisions. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. This is our Project Here toolkit, first of its kind in the country, a really cool and innovative partnership that happened because of teamwork and because of the participation of so many folks. And so today we're here to relaunch this initiative and talk a little bit about how it is actually right now making a difference in the lives of public middle school students across the state. As you know, this devastating opioid crisis continues to take lives and ruin families here in Massachusetts and across the nation. It has been my top priority as your Attorney General. With partners in law enforcement, we've been going after drug traffickers and cartels who make heroin and fentanyl available. We're working with doctors and pharmacy chains to change prescribing practices. We've worked with our legislature and the Department of Public Health to set up a Narcan fund to ensure first responders have access to life-saving Narcan, and we worked very hard to implement new legislation this year to get at some of this. And importantly, this summer, as you know, after a 3-year investigation by this office, we sued Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin, and its board of directors and its executives who put profits ahead of people and helped to create this tragedy. But at the same time, we've learned that our best strategy is to stop addiction before it starts. 90% of adults who struggle today with substance use disorders started before the age of 18. Half were under the age of 15. Prevention education is a huge unmet need in our schools. We require schools to provide substance use prevention education, but we haven't given them the resources. All of us on the stage are committed to fixing that. Now, thanks to this team, Project Here is now available to every public middle school in Massachusetts. And we are in, as you can see from this map, we are already in over 250 middle schools across the state in just a year alone. It's innovative, it's flexible, it's meeting the needs right now of young people across our state. And that's why we're here to talk about some of the changes and improvements we've made to it to make it even more of an impact and more of a reality for folks across the state. Now, since we launched this project a little while back, I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of schools, to sit with school nurses and teachers and educators, and most importantly, students. And I know from those conversations that this is working. So here's what we're announcing today. We're launching a new digital app called Project Here Games, which is giving young people an engaging way to learn about healthy choices and substance use. It's both fun and educational, and it gives students the chance to practice healthy skills and put them to use in real-world scenarios. And again, I want to thank Fable Vision for its help in developing this really cool and really meaningful, I think, resource for our young people. Our online toolkit has been launched and enhanced and includes more than 50 resources and lesson plans for students and teachers. This toolkit allows teachers to find the resources that they need for our young people. And we're also announcing the recipients of funding for evidence-based prevention education. There are a lot of people across the state who are already engaged in important work around prevention and education. And we in the Attorney General's office and all the partners here want to support that. So today we're announcing more than $420,000, which will go to 109 schools in 38 cities and towns around Massachusetts to help them continue this life-saving and empowering work. Later today, when we leave here, I'll be getting on the road and going down to Weymouth. I'll be at the Chapman Middle School to meet with some of our students and to hear directly from them about the importance of this kind of education. We know that we have more work to do, but we are making a difference. Prevention and education is key. Empowering our young people is absolutely essential. We tried this, we launched this, we didn't know how this was going to go a year ago when we put this together because nobody had done it before in the country. But I'm here today to tell you that I know, based on what we've seen, that this is working, this is important, and we need to double down on this effort. And so I'm really proud to be here today with my partners, have a conversation. But before we move to that, I want to bring to the podium Ann Klee of GE. I want to thank GE for its commitment to this effort and for the support it has provided in furthering and bettering the health of families and communities around our state. Ann.
Thank you, Attorney General Healey, Chris, and all of our Project HERE partners for your leadership and for spearheading this really critical set of initiatives and the tremendous impact that it's had just in the 1 year that we've launched it. 250 schools using the toolkit, thousands of middle schoolers reached. Prevention is the key here. If we can get to kids and prevent them from getting into the substance use spiral and avoid using opiates and other substances, that's how we get ahead of the curve. That's how we break the crisis. It's hard to believe that it's been 2 years since GE moved to Boston. And when we moved here, we knew we were coming into a really dynamic community, one that drives innovation. And I think Project HERE is such a great example of that. When we moved here, we announced a $50 million philanthropic commitment to the community, to the Commonwealth. A part of that was enhancing STEM education in the Boston Public Schools. We've done that through a number of partnerships and programs. Our Brilliant Career Lab, which is an innovative mobile technology van that we take to schools across the country, and it's having an impact, getting more kids excited about STEM. But another really critical part of our philanthropy was our desire to focus on the opiate crisis and to help the Commonwealth lead the way with solutions. So when Attorney General Healey approached us last year and asked us to participate in Project HERE, essentially bringing together our two focus areas, education and the opiate crisis, we immediately said yes. We knew this was something that we wanted to be a partner on. Project HERE is a great example of a public-private partnership, a collaboration that's making substance use prevention education available to every public middle school student in the Commonwealth. Phenomenal reach in just 1 year. And it's empowering students to make healthy decisions for themselves, to control their lives. So today we're announcing the launch of the mobile app, very exciting, Project HERE Games, which brings gamification, which really is a word, to the fight against substance use disorders. We market tested the app with some of our target audience, and we got really good feedback. So I want to share with you some comments that we got from Calvin. Now, Calvin is a 13-year-old 8th grader who lives in Auburn, and we asked him to test the app, and this is what he told us. Some middle school students try to act cool, and they resort to marijuana to get popular. And people don't know what they should do, whether they should say yes and go with their friends, or say no and not talk to these people. The app really does help middle schoolers get through these situations. It's exactly what the Attorney General was talking about. Empowering students with tools in real-life situations so that they know what to say and how to address those really tough situations. So Calvin's just one example of thousands of students who are engaging with Project Here today. With this app, we're going to broaden the impact, giving students the tools, connecting with students with innovative ways to avoid falling into the vicious cycle of substance use and the opiate crisis. So before I hand it over to the Attorney General and the panel, let's take a quick look at a video trailer about Project Here Games. So let's roll the tape.
Project Here, the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, and the GE Foundation present Project Here Games, a unique approach to substance use prevention education for middle school students. Project Here resources for teachers and students are available to every public middle school in Massachusetts to help students make healthy decisions. Project Here Games is an interactive online experience with games, fun quizzes, and real-life scenarios based on the latest research on substance use prevention and social-emotional learning. Project Here Games presents valuable information and tools in quick, relatable, kid-friendly bites, reinforcing the critical decision-making, communication, and coping skills kids need for a healthy and successful future. Project Here Games is free and can be used inside and outside the classroom on all devices, by individual students, or together by the whole class. For more information, visit projectheregames.org.
All right. Well, we're just going to have a discussion here this morning about Project Here and about what we're trying to talk about today and really launch today. And I'm going to start by asking Chris Herron, who we all know and love as one of the nation's foremost advocates for our young people. He's out there every day, crisscrossing the country, talking about health and wellness, education, and the kind of prevention work that's going to make a difference in kids' lives. And he's been, no surprise, as a former hoopster, a fantastic teammate in all of this. We are so lucky to have him on our team. And I just want to ask you, Chris, you know, you're here today, you're in Massachusetts, your home state. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means to have this kind of education now available in our public middle schools and what kind of impact you think it makes?
You know, for me, starting this journey 8 years ago, public speaking, I had no idea over the last 8 years I would present in front of 1 million kids. And when I started this, the focus was on breaking down the stigma around addiction. The goal was to increase funding for treatments, but then I looked into the crowd and I saw a bunch of young people, and I knew they were missing something. I knew they wanted to be heard. I knew they wanted to be engaged. And I had to change my story, and I had to focus on the first day and not the worst day. You know, talk about the beginning and not the ending. And, you know, I think anytime you can get kids to engage in any type of conversation around this topic, it's a win. So to present them an app and let them engage in this and educate them and raise awareness around it, I think is a huge success.
Great. Well, again, thank you for everything that you're doing, because when we were putting this together, we actually wanted to put something together that was going to have an impact, that was going to make a difference and really reach kids. And based on all your work and your time with so many young people, Chris, I really, really appreciate all of your input and helping drive both the content and the direction of things here. It's been just awesome. So thank you. And we
Thank
know we
you.
got a lot of work to do still, but we'll see, he still got it.
You like that?
Yeah. That's an assist for those of you who play ball. Not surprising from a point guard. Okay, and now I just want to turn this over to the superintendent. Jordana Harper, as I mentioned, is a superintendent in the Greenfield Public School System and has been a terrific partner to all of us. And Jordana, you know, you were in schools every day and with students every day. And you know, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there. I've focused in particular lately on vaping and juuling, so pervasive in all our schools, horrifying at the young age at which that's happening. But talk a little bit about what you're seeing, whether it's, you know, drinking or vaping or marijuana use or opioid use, and talk a little bit about how Project Here is helping students in Greenfield and beyond.
Thank you, Attorney General, and thank you to these fantastic partners. And I just want to start by saying there are educators all across the Commonwealth who know that evidence-based programs work, but what Project Here is doing is giving us actual tools that we can use every day to respond to the students in our communities. And the needs in our communities are different. And for some of us, we might be focusing on tobacco use or vaping or juuling or the opioid crisis. And for others, it's a focus on alcohol. But for all of our students, the key is prevention and connection. I last saw Chris when he was in Greenfield talking to young people. The story is so important, the conversation with our young people, and that's what they need. They need an opportunity to engage. I think this app gives them a way to engage and opens a conversation with them. In Greenfield, we have focused heavily on prevention and on a curriculum that focuses on this idea of a positive cycle of action. That's why we're so excited with this new grant that's being announced today, that we can supplement our life skills curriculum, which we've been using since 2015, with the new positive action curriculum in addition. That's what the grant is going to provide for us that we couldn't otherwise do. And with that, we have already seen a significant reduction in alcohol use, in tobacco use, in marijuana use, and in opioid use among our young people. But we have seen a huge increase in vaping and juuling. And it is dramatic and it's alarming. And what we need are tools to drive student-led campaigns to get in the hands of our young people so they can communicate with one another. It's a challenge for parents to stay ahead of these trends. I can't tell you how many times I talk to somebody and they say, "What's juuling? How do you spell it? What are you talking about?" So when we have tools that come out of this toolkit that a health teacher can use, a classroom teacher can use, a parent can use, an administrator can use, that just gets the message out there. In Greenfield, we had committed to making a year-long focus on vaping and juuling to drive the conversation for our young people, because we don't know the effects, the health effects, the long-term effects. And we do know that the more we can focus on these upstream positive behavioral interventions, they will have long-term positive influence, not just on substance abuse, but on the student's life across many domains. And that's what's important, the focus on social emotional. I do want to say I think Project Here gets it really right. The focus is on the right place. It's on prevention, it's on education, it's on the social emotional needs of our students. Thank you.
No, well, thank you. And one of the cool things we did in creating this is that we actually did a lot of focus groups with real students to see how they would react, to see how they would respond. And I just want to thank all the schools and the students and the educators who supported us in doing that important work. You know, you mentioned, Superintendent, that there are a whole bunch of different areas that you're dealing with. And one of the things we've tried to do and make available through this, and the benefit of having something in a digital format, is that it allows us to really be flexible and innovate and respond. So Carly is now the project manager of Project Here. Talk a little bit about the resources that are now available to teachers and to students. I know we've updated materials to account for vaping, to talk about and to teach about vaping and the dangers of vaping. But talk to us a little bit, Carly, about what's new in this version 2.0.
Sure, thank you. So I think you hit it on the nail on the head, and as did the superintendent, that we really know that there are different issues that don't fit every single community. So we want to make sure that this isn't a one-size-fits-all program. And with Project Here, what we intend to do and what we've tried to keep current with is juuling, vaping, any sort of issue that's coming up in schools. We want to be there, and we want to be providing teachers with the resources that they need in order to train their students and help their students make healthy decisions themselves. So in addition to constantly updating the online toolkit, I think that this app is going to be a big thing for our students across the Commonwealth. I did some of these focus groups that you mentioned, and just talking with the students, it's really interesting to hear their perspective on it, because this is an app where they can practice skills that they wouldn't otherwise be able to practice. So they get to practice communication skills and coping skills and really learn information that they don't have at their fingertips every day. And so when you're doing it, and you're doing it in a way that young people can understand via an app, this is how young people will learn. And we think about how when we designed the app, we thought about the young people and kind of what they would be drawn to. And that's why on the app, it's kind of broken down into 3 different sections. There are mini games, so students can play a variety of these games. There are 20 of them, and they can learn skills while they're in the process of playing those games. In addition, there are quizzes, and these quizzes really are personalized, and they play off of what kind of personality the young person has. So in addition, through these quizzes, we really try to help the young person understand more about themselves and how their own personality plays into that healthy decision making. And then finally, the app also has several scenarios. So these are real life scenarios that middle school students might encounter on an everyday basis. And they get a chance to try and pick the right answer using some of the skills that they've learned in the app. So I think we're really trying to reach young people where they're at. And as we know, young people are on their phones, and they also can learn via technology. So we really hope that with this app that young people do get excited about it like we expect them to, and that they're able to really learn these skills.
Yeah, well, thanks, Carly. And thank you for pointing out what is really important here. We know it is not enough to talk to young people about drug use and drugs and all the problems that flow through that. That's what my generation had. That's what we were talking about and told about in school. We know that it's so important to get to the root of what it is that leads young people and, frankly, adults across our country to turn towards substances as a way to deal with stress, anxiety, and any of the normal things that present themselves, especially to our young people. And I think, Chris, you've always talked about the foundational importance of health and wellness and building those life skills in our young people. And one of the things I know that's really important to you is that focus as the foundation for this work, and that's what we're trying to achieve through some of these games. You may wonder, what are we doing games for? Well, the games are directed at helping young people make those kind of important decisions and confront, anxiety and tension and the like, and navigate through that. But also, one of the things you talk about is the importance of having a trusted adult in your life. And just speak a little bit about what you think this means, because I think the public may wonder, well, what are you doing talking about healthy life skills and some of the tools we're trying to teach and make available here?
Again, over the last 8 years, getting out in front of millions of kids, I've heard their voice. I've listened to their feedback. I know what they want, and I know they need an opportunity to have a platform to discuss their social and their emotional needs. For me, it's all about the first day. It's all about the beginning. It's all about the why. I mean, if you talk to kids, most parents, when their kids come home under the influence, the first question is, where were you? Who were you with? What did you do? They don't ask why. And why is where is the core of it. So I think if we can get out in front of this, engage them to communicate and talk about their social and emotional needs. This is not just about drug addiction. This is about self-esteem and self-worth. It's about creating a safe place for kids to build themselves up, to have the ability to look at their friends and say, I'd rather make a different decision. I do not want to go down that road. You know, for me, it's extremely, extremely exciting that I'm going to be able to redirect thousands and thousands of kids to this site. That, you know, this is an opportunity to work within the schools, but also walk into a school, present, and then direct them to this app. So it's a win-win for me.
Well, I really appreciate it, all the work that you and the Heron Project have been doing for so long on this front. And, you know, if you had a message right now to parents, and we got a lot of people listening online, and I know who'll be watching later, anything you want to say about how to start that dialogue?
You know, again, I think the most critical question is to ask why. You know, for me personally, I was ranked in the top 20 basketball players in the United States at 17 years old. I had a book written about me by the time I was 18 years old. I was playing in front of 4,000 people on a Friday night in Fall River, but I had a tough time walking down 12 steps into my best friend's basement without a drink or drugs in my system. And I think that's where we fail. I think we've thrown up the white flag. We've surrendered to kids are gonna be kids. I see nothing about getting drunk in a basement at 14 years old about being a kid. And I think we need to challenge our children socially. I think we need to check in emotionally. I think as parents, we're so focused on athletic performance and academics that we forget Fridays and Saturday nights, that we forget what our kids are doing on weekends. We're the first to email the teacher. We're the first to criticize the coach. But on a Friday and Saturday night, we'll let a 16-year-old girl walk down 12 steps into a basement, not knowing if there's going to be parents, alcohol, or drugs there. So I think we need to challenge them more. I think we need to focus on that social and emotional growth.
And parents out there, you know, need the resources. We know that, and that's part of what we're looking to provide through Project Here in our communities. And Superintendent Harper, you know, in Greenfield, I know there is ongoing prevention education. Talk a little bit about how this grant is going to help you with your evidence-based curricula that addresses some of the social emotional learning competencies that we need to develop and build in our young people so we build their self-esteem and build their confidence.
Sure. So this is a critical next step in taking the prevention work that we're doing and continuing to build on it. In my opinion, you cannot do enough in this area. There's not a risk of overkill. There's a risk of under addressing the need and under supporting our students. So as I mentioned, we've been using life skills curriculum for a number of years now, and the Project Here toolkit is something that we started with last year in our middle school population with really good results. And this year we're expanding our prevention curriculum and we're adding the positive action curriculum. And again, the focus and the reason that I support this as an educator is because it's on developing positive skills and helping students make healthy choices and not on telling them what not to do. We are educators. We care about developing students in a complete way. And I don't think it's enough to send children out into the complexities of today's world without some kind of a roadmap, without some way to help them navigate it. I think when you look at the complexity of how quickly our world is changing, if we all were to step back and think, gee, could I have tackled these challenges myself as a young person, I think we would find that we would have benefited from some support around how to meet these challenges without resorting to the easy answers that we know are negative long term. So again, this grant is going to allow us to take our implementation to the next step and really meet the needs with a real focus on the vaping and juuling, which is a real issue, even while we've seen successes in our community.
And we're going to continue our investigation on that front against those companies who are making and marketing vaping materials and increasingly marketing them, it appears, to young people and looking to get them hooked. Well, I'm glad to know that, and I'm really glad that we're joined today by many of our grant recipients, and I'm looking forward to what that is going to mean for the more than 109 schools who are going to benefit from that funding this year. Carly, as we wrap here, tell us what's ahead. What do you see in terms of the future of Project Here and where we're going?
So in terms of Project Here, we just hired a school coordinator, and so we really want to engage with communities. We want to meet our communities where they're at and really have a face on the ground who's able to go and assess the needs. And I think we have learned so much from talking to young people across the state and what it is that they really truly feel like they could benefit from. And so we're hoping that our school coordinator can be that person on the ground. We also want to continue to update our online toolkit, as I mentioned before, with any resources that teachers might need. And I think it's really important to point out that these are accurate resources. These are not just willy-nilly compiled resources. They're really selectively chosen by people who know what they're talking about, and we really want to get those into the hands of every teacher. So our goal is to make sure that people know what Project Here is and know that it has the components of the online toolkit, Project Here games, and that we have this grant program available, and we want people to know about it and use it and love it. So that's what's ahead.
It's great. Well, as I say, this is something that we tried, first of its kind, over a year ago, and it came about because of teamwork, because of collaboration, and I think that as a result, we've got a product that is really having an impact. It's had an impact over the last year, and today is about making sure as we relaunch that more schools, more communities know that this resource is available to them. I just left this morning City Hall where we're celebrating Recovery Month and the people who've come together and the families who stood strong in the face of this epidemic. And one of the things I said to them was that we were going to be having this discussion today and out there with Project Here. And I think that that does hopefully bring hope to people. It's about dealing with the underlying issues that lead to addiction. You may not have had to play in front of 4,000 people on a Friday night, but you know, you look at Chris as somebody who was still on top of his game. You know, you think about, you know, if somebody like a Chris Herron, right, with everything in the world at his fingertips, could feel anxiety, could feel stress, could feel peer pressure, and feel like there was something he needed to turn to help him escape or deal. You know, you think about what's going on, whether you're an athlete or not, what's going on in the minds and the lives of all of our young people. And this is about giving them an opportunity to be their best selves. It's about the foundation, building health and wellness, and that's why I'm so proud that we were able to come together and make this resource available to everybody. We're happy to take some questions at this time if there are any from the audience. And I want to thank you, all of you panelists, for your participation. Okay. Well, with that, we're going to conclude. It's an easy crowd. It's good. It's all right. We don't always get that here. No. But look, I encourage everybody out there to go online to our AG website, to go to the Project Here website, www.here.world. Check it out. Go on, parents out there, get with your kids, play some of these games. You'll see what it is we're talking about, and let this continue to be a resource. We're going to continue to innovate, and we're going to continue to work to make sure that this is working for our families and our communities. Thanks again to all of our great partners, and look forward to continued teamwork.